So today I want to give you all a high-level overview of St. Louis University, why students choose to come to our institution, who does well, who really enjoys the experience, to help you identify students who'd be a good fit for us. I'll talk a little bit about the destination and primarily focused on outcomes. So for students who are interested in CPT, OPT opportunities, why our location is an excellent destination for career-oriented students. Yuba, I'll go ahead and get started. And as you had mentioned, if you have any questions, you can throw it in the chat. We'll also leave some time at the end. I know there will be a lot of information, so if there's any specific information that you want more details on, we'll do a Q&A. Or if there's anything that I didn't cover that you have an inquiry about, definitely let us know. You can see on the screen right now, SLU for STEM. This is one of our key highlights that we often talk about at St. Louis University. Historically, we've been known as a very strong medical school, as a very strong and famous business school. But in fact, we also have a lot of STEM degree programs across all of our different faculties: business, engineering, sciences, health. This is really important for those students that are looking for those OPT extension opportunities. So throughout the presentation, I'll cover in depth kind of the STEM opportunities that exist at SLU. We have over 40 different degree programs at St. Louis University that do qualify for STEM. So career-oriented focus is something that's very critical for us at SLU. From the moment that a student starts with us, whether it's in an academic English program, in a pathway program, or direct entry, there are a lot of opportunities for students to work on those skills for building resumes, building connections, networking events, and also a lot of resources through our Career Center, not just when the student goes to look for a job, but all that long-term preparation to ensure that they're really successful in that job search. And this really starts from offering the programs that are key in industries right now, the jobs that are more available, more readily available, and oftentimes they are in those STEM degrees. A really high-level overview of our university. We are a very historic institution. We were founded in 1818. So within the N2 network of institutions, Australia, UK, and the United States, we are actually the oldest university. That academic legacy is something that students really enjoy because they understand they're coming to an institution that has faculty that have been associated with Nobel Peace Prize, that have done a lot of intensive research. Parents really like this because it really indicates an academic legacy and a history of excellence in the academy. We have about 15,000 students, so we're considered a medium, larger size institution. We have about 3,200 international students at present. So we are a very global institution, made even more global by the fact that we do have a campus located in Madrid, Spain as well. So our European campus is actually the oldest American University full campus experience in Europe. So that was founded in 1967. That's more for an undergrad experience, but we do have a lot of students who move between the two campuses. So we have a very well-balanced international student body. So we have students from Latin America, Europe, Africa, South Asia, and Asia as well. So very nice diversity. We are very research-heavy institutions, so most of our graduate and doctoral level programs do have research, whether it's through thesis, whether it's through external funded research. In addition, one thing that's really unique for SLU is we do allow undergrad students to be involved in research from day one, which means they can be involved with maybe a graduate student research or PhD students research as well. So for those undergrad students, they can really get some hands-on experience and they don't have to wait until they're graduate level students. I think the fact that we maintain a very small faculty to student ratio, even though we have 15,000 students, it allows for that more personalized experience. Parents really like this. They like it because they know they're going to a very highly ranked institution where their son or daughter is not going to be sitting in a very large classroom of 100 or 200 students. And that's really part of the private university experience. You're paying for this more catered, custom, one-on-one experience. So students are really getting out of their education more than just kind of reading books and being in a class with a lot of other students and the professor doesn't know their name. Within the Into network, we actually do have the smallest faculty to student ratio, even smaller than the liberal arts school, Drew. So having 15,000 students, but small classes is very unique. And that really is part of that community that I mentioned earlier that we try to engender on campus. This year, our university is ranked in the top 3% of all American institutions. We're ranked at 105. So that's a really clear indication of not only the academic excellence, but the research intensivity of our institution and the outcomes that our students are gaining. So employability is a key factor. Value, we are very highly ranked for best value in the United States. This really is referencing the cost of tuition versus the outcome. So employment opportunities, retention rates. So really, it does indicate, you know, when we look at scholarships versus what they're getting for it, being ranked number 57 is a huge attribute for us that we like to make sure that you all understand. We do hold the highest level accreditations, ABET for engineering, ABA for law, AACSB for the business school, and then our English program is certified. So let me dive a little bit into some of the key faculty areas so you have an understanding of the programs that will probably be most interesting for your students. I mentioned earlier, business is one of our really key famous departments within the university. We do actually have business STEM degree programs. So at the undergrad level, we do have business technology management, and at the graduate level, we have a wide variety of STEM business programs. We have our accounting program, applied finance, one-year MBA, professional MBA, and supply chain management. So that's a really exceptional opportunity for those business students who are looking for STEM. SLU will be a great option. Our business school is highly funded by two very large global Fortune companies. Number one, Boeing sponsors our Institute of International Business. So we have a very strong international business program at the undergrad level, ranked in the top 20. And our graduate international business program within the MBA program is ranked, I believe this year, number 10 or number 9. So very highly ranked in IB. Emerson, which is a very large global technology company headquartered here in St. Louis, they do sponsor our Leadership Institute. So we do have a lot of funding from corporations that are based here in St. Louis that do fund specific research, fund different opportunities for our students. Additionally, we do have a very high sophistication within the finance industry. St. Louis is one of the locations for the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. So we do have a lot of students who come here at SLU for finance and accounting. We do actually have live Bloomberg terminals within our business school. So students can actually live trade on the stock market with money that stays within the institution, but it's actually real money that they could to trade with. So a lot of exceptional opportunities in the business school. At the grad level, I do like to highlight our MBA program because it has evolved over the years, and I think this is a really interesting degree area. We have a one-year MBA and we have a two-year MBA. The two-year MBA is typically what international students prefer. Both will offer STEM eligibility. The two-year MBA gives students time where if they want to do CPT during the classes, they can. The one-year MBA is typically more suitable for a student who is a little bit older. Maybe they're working, they only want to take a year off, do the MBA, and get back to work. Both of these do offer concentration areas so they can focus on something like marketing, supply chain management. So we have seen over the years, MBA programs have kind of gone down in popularity, and we're starting to see that trend going back up again. I don't know if it's the global market, but just wanted to highlight that. As well, our other two STEM degree programs, Applied Finance and Supply Chain Management. I really like Supply Chain Management because it has a very, very high ranking, number 13 in the US. And oftentimes people will ask me, well, why does SLU have a really good supply chain program? You're in the middle of the country. Oftentimes, many countries, their high expertise in supply chain are around large seaports. For us in St. Louis, we're actually the second largest inland port in the entire United States because we're at the convergence of the two largest river systems. So being in the central part of the United States, we have a lot of highways that go through here, a lot of air traffic, and then very large river traffic that moves a lot of goods and services. So we do have a very high expertise in supply chain management, which is a very big field in South Asia. So for students looking for STEM supply chain or STEM finance, SLU would be an ideal option for them. Moving on to our School of Engineering, this is where we see a lot of our South Asian students. We do have traditional engineering degree programs like mechanical, civil, electrical. We have very high specialty in biomedical engineering as well as in aerospace engineering. In fact, we do have the oldest piloting program within the United States. So we do train professional pilots at the undergrad level. And we also have aerospace engineering, which we see a lot of our students going on to commercial companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Airbus, and also more on the government side, Department of Defense, NASA, and also things like SpaceX. So we have a very, very excellent program in aerospace engineering. Where we're seeing a lot of our South Asian students is in our technology portfolio within the engineering school. We do have programs like computer science, software engineering, artificial intelligence at the grad level, as well information systems and cyber security. So for students that are coming out of these kind of technology spaces, we do have a variety of different programs. Typically, these will be completed in a year and a half at maximum 2 years. So they're typically 30 to 33 credit hours. All of these programs are STEM eligible and are in fields that have high need for employees right now. So we're seeing really excellent outcomes for CPT and OPT. One of the great benefits of this collection of programs is they do all have a flat tuition rate of $42,000. So the entire program is 42, and that would be about $21,000 per year. And that's pretty typical for many of our grad programs, and that would be before any scholarshiping. So as an institution, we're looking at a very high ranking. We're looking at really excellent outcomes on CPT and OPT, but then we're also looking at the grad level at very affordable tuition comparative to other competitor institutions. So I really like to highlight that full totality of the package, specifically for these degree programs because of the high interest level in them. Couple unique things about computer science, artificial intelligence, and software engineering. We do also have what we call background and non-background track. We oftentimes in India, for example, we'll see students coming out of a EEE program. We'll see an ECE student that wants to go into computer science, but many universities will say, you didn't come from a traditional computer science background. Sorry, you can't come here. We have a non-background track, which allows students who come from traditional STEM degrees, but maybe not computer science, the opportunity to apply to our program. This will help accommodate some of those more traditional engineering students, maybe mechanical, ECE, to then make that switch over to computer science at the grad level. That's a really huge opportunity for your markets to promote computer science at SLU. If a student applies for computer science, they don't quite have the background, or maybe there's something in their application that gives our faculty pause, before they deny a student, they'll check background versus non-background. And if either of those are not an option, before they deny the student, they'll actually check with the information systems degree program to see if they would admit the student. Now, moving them laterally over to information systems, we know it's not the student's first option. However, if they're applying to computer science at SLU and not getting admitted, there's probably not a lot of options for them because we do offer background and non-background options. So as a counselor, it at least gives you a little bit more of an assurance that if you apply to one of these programs, you have a couple different backup options, provided that the student has at least the minimum GPA and is coming from an accredited institution. So I like to call that our counselor protection program because it gives you a little bit more of an insurance policy to know that if you recommend SLU, they have a decent background, they fit most of the main criteria. If we can't get them in for computer science, potentially we could get them in for information systems. But we're very clear, we know it's not their first option, but it at least is an option for them. One thing to note for most of our grad programs, we do not require GRE and GMAT, and that's not just this collection of programs, but the business school, engineering, most of our health programs. So that's another great highlight for SLU. The other third area that's really important at SLU would be anything in health and human services. We do have the oldest medical school west of the Mississippi River, so we have a long history in all things related to health. Everything from a traditional pre-med to medical school program to public health to biology, biomedical engineering. We have a full portfolio of health degrees at undergrad, grad, PhD level. We do highly promote SLU to undergrad students as an excellent pre-med option. Pre-med, as you know, is very difficult in the US, but we do have many international students who come to SLU for the pre-med option. There are only about 50 medical schools in the United States that will accept international students, and SLU is one of them. So because of that, many undergrad students will choose to do our pre-med program because they at least have the opportunity to apply to the medical school at SLU. Now, doing the pre-med program at SLU does not guarantee admission into our medical school. So I'm very clear about that. However, being at a school that has a medical school and a medical school that accepts international students is a much better opportunity for an international student than a school that doesn't have a medical school or one that accepts them, because it gets them a little bit closer to that goal at the place that they're starting. We also have a very robust ecosystem of health sciences, health laboratories, and health research at SLU. So it's a really great destination for all things pre-med. We do have a teaching hospital on our campus. There are 2 in St. Louis, and both of them are Trauma One teaching hospitals. That's very unique for a city of 3 million people to have 2 teaching hospitals. So we're very fortunate, and both of them are very close to our main campus. So lots of opportunities for internships, clinicals, laboratory work for students in that undergrad program to start getting closer to the medical field and building that resume throughout their 4-year undergrad experience. At the grad level, we do have 2 programs that have been very, very popular in India, for example. One is our health data science program, which many people globally would probably call a health informatics program. It's the same thing, it's just a different nomenclature. And then our MPH, our Masters in Public Health program. So a couple great highlights about both of these. They can both be completed in 2 years or less. Both of them do qualify for STEM OPT extension. This is very unique for an MPH program to have STEM. So if you ever have students, especially students that are wanting to make a career switch, we often will see MDs, so foreign doctors, who are looking to come to the US to do a graduate or doctoral level program. Maybe they won't say, I want to, get an MD license in the US, but they don't have that option. A lot of foreign physicians will come to the US to do MPH. We've got a lot of dentists who have done this, physical therapists, MDs. So these have been very popular for us. We have a lot of students from the region in both of these degree programs. Neither requires GMAT or GRE, and health data science has one of our highest employment success rates. In fact, in health data science, students are not just working in health fields like insurance companies or in public health. We have a lot of students, I would say about 30%, who actually go into the business world. We've had students employed out of health data science going to places like Amazon, large corporations, because they have the core skills of data science. So if it gives students a little bit more maneuverability. If they're wanting to stay in the health field, great, they can. If they want to move beyond the health field, this program is really well positioned to allow them to kind of navigate through different discipline areas after they graduate. We are a research institution, as I mentioned earlier. We have a lot of hands-on learning opportunities, whether you're a piloting student in one of our Boeing simulators, in one of our laboratories for the health programs. The business programs have labs like the Bloomberg Terminal. So a lot of hands-on learning on campus. Things that I like to highlight. Our campus is an urban campus, so we're in the city, but not downtown. So we have this kind of, I would call it like a college town campus imported into the middle of a large US city. It's because our campus is so old, the city grew around all the land that we had. So because of that, we have a fully contained campus. So it's very walkable, no car traffic except one road that bifurcates both sides of campus. It's very green. Oftentimes visitors who have been to many US campuses note how beautiful our campus is. Some people call it like the Harry Potter in the US because of the historic architecture, how well maintained the facilities, the grounds, how safe it feels. I think it gives students and parents a lot of confidence in the experience that students will have outside of class. As counselors, I do encourage you all to check out our virtual tour. It's uvisit.com/SLU. It's a great way to show students a little bit more directly without visiting what our campus looks like, to give them kind of a 360 view of that. And we'll share that after as well, so that you don't have to write it down. Want to focus a little bit on the destination. St. Louis is a city of about 3 million people. We're the third largest city in the Midwestern region after Chicago and Minneapolis. We have all 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. Very long, hot summer, very short but very cold winters. January and February typically are the coldest months. I describe St. Louis as a large small town or a very big or like a small big city. With 3 million people, it is larger, but it does have a little bit more of a family-friendly feel. Very old, very historic city for this part of the United States. Being in the middle of the country is actually a big advantage for us. We have a lot of key industries in health, logistics, banking, finance. And it's because a lot of very large companies have their headquarters in St. Louis. We have 15 Fortune companies headquartered in our city, and a lot of multinational companies that have offices here across a wide variety of industries. And I always like to give examples for students to make it a little bit more real. So I always say, if you have a television at home, how do you power and change the channels? Well, you use a remote. And what do you put in that remote? A battery. Well, Energizer, for example, is a battery company that is headquartered here in St. Louis. They have operations and they sell all around the world. For students that come from India, if they've ever flown through the new terminal in New Delhi, that terminal was designed by an architecture firm headquartered in St. Louis. So there are a lot of big companies headquartered here that probably impact all of your day-to-day lives in ways that you probably didn't even know. So I like to say St. Louis, in a way, touches your lives and your students' lives and their parents' lives every day. And this is a great way to illuminate all the big companies that are here that students can go work at. Maybe they can get transferred back home, vice versa. So lots of great opportunities for CPT and OPT. One really great highlight, St. Louis University is a Jesuit Catholic institution. For our undergrad students, what this means is they will have access to all of St. Louis University's partner Jesuit school career centers. In the United States, there are 28 Jesuit universities. St. Louis University is one of them. Other schools like University of San Francisco, Georgetown University in DC, Fordham in New York. What this means, and I think parents really like this, is they have the assurance that when their son or daughter at the undergrad level comes to SLU, they will have 28 university career centers that will support them all across the US, looking for internships, looking for job opportunities. This is very unique to this network of Jesuit schools, and it's something that your students coming to SLU will have access to. So they really get a lot of support, whether it's here in St. Louis or all around the United States with our network of institutions. Really great outcomes for international students. We've had students work at NASA. Fernando is a student who started at our campus in Spain and then graduated from our campus here in the United States. Ting was a student from Hong Kong who now flies the 737 for Cathay Pacific. All right, so just a couple highlights on admissions. At the undergrad level, we do have a very flexible undergraduate entry point. We can accept students with GPA equivalencies down to 2.5. And we can accept, almost down to like a 5.0 on IELTS. Typically, students from your region are coming in at that direct entry level. However, if they're a little bit lower on GPA or a little bit lower on their TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, we do have the pathway program that can help capture them and provide them a little bit additional support should they need. One great thing is when a student applies for undergraduate direct entry, they are automatically considered for scholarships. Each year, the scholarship amount changes. It always is stable at a maximum of $25,000. Last year, so for this past fall intake that we just had, they were offering up to $39,000 per year in scholarship for undergrad, and our tuition is about $50,000. They have not yet announced the new scholarship program for fall 25. Typically, they'll do that in October, but the minimum is always $25,000 being the max range. So it should land somewhere between 25 and 39 again this year. So excellent scholarships, no separate application required. Students are offered at the time of admission. So that makes it really easy when you submit the application. All the applications are available on the N2 partner portal, so it's really easy to submit that. For our undergrad pathway students, admitted students from your region would automatically receive a $20,000 per year scholarship if they start in pathway. And our scholarships are good for 10 semesters or 5 years. So they have that assurance of planning ahead of knowing whatever I get the first semester, I'll continue that all the way until graduation, provided that they maintain the minimum GPA and do all those things. We do also offer about 20 graduate pathway programs. Again, it's that flexibility with the entry requirements. At the graduate level, many of our programs will offer up to $10,000 to $20,000 in graduate direct entry scholarship. And then for graduate pathway, we do offer up to $14,000 on the pathway. We do all of our grad scholarships at the time of admission. So when a student's admitted, they will know from that moment what their total scholarship package will look like. That is a way for students and parents to really plan for the investment. With your markets being heavily skewed toward graduate, at least in India, the one thing that I like to highlight is that tuition coming in at about $21,000 per year before scholarship is a very good tuition rate for our level of institution. And then on top of that, they will be considered for scholarship. Okay. And I think that was everything I have. I'll open it up to questions. Yuba, was there anything else that you wanted to add, having been on our campus, experienced SLU for yourself, kind of any notes that you would like to highlight?
because of some lengthy process. Sometime the faculty should make the decision, some kind of things. Can you explain our advisors like why sometime it's a little longer for graduate admission?
So typically for so last year was different. SLU transitioned to a new admissions system, and that started in September last year. So we don't really have a very long decision timeline any longer for grad. PhD sometimes can take a little bit longer just because that's a very different thing. But for most of our grad programs that I talked about today, provided that the application's complete, we generally will have a decision within 2 weeks, 3 weeks max, if we're in like peak season. So generally 15 days is probably the longest anybody would ever wait. Some of our really key programs, they're actually what we call auto-decisioned. And what that means is when the application comes to us, if everything's complete, the system will actually, if they're admissible, admit them automatically without it going to the faculty to be decided. When an application has to go to the faculty to decide, then it can take a little bit longer in that 3 week time frame. But if a student has the good GPA, they have the right background degree, they have the right language score. For many of our programs, they're auto admitted, and we typically will know in 24 to 36 hours. So that's something new that was deployed uh, December last year, January this year. So we actually have a very short turnaround on our graduate decisioning.
I have seen a couple of advisors from Nepal. So India is very popular for deposit system, but Nepal is just starting. So they got like sometime frustrated for depositing thing. Can you explain like your graduate system, they have a deposit or not, or undergraduate definitely they have a deposit things.
Yep, it's pretty easy. Undergrad is a $500 deposit, and for graduate, it is a $350 deposit.
Okay.
Um, for undergrad, we do require it. For grad, we were not requiring it for this fall, but they are changing that because of kind of some trends in the industry and some issues that many countries and students are facing when they go to get the embassy or to get the visa. Um, when we didn't require it, we're finding that there's a higher likelihood that a student will be denied a visa in many countries because it doesn't look like they have any skin in the game, meaning, are they really a legitimate student? So that deposit is helping also serve as an indicator to the embassy that that's a valid, legitimate student. So deposits are becoming more and more important, not just for the institution to have a good sense of who's coming or not, but also to kind of increase potentially the likelihood of visa acquisitions.
It's somebody asking application fee. I think there is some missing question. So can you explain like do you have any application fee on the campus?
Nope. I don't think we have any programs that have an application fee. And for most of the programs that I talked about today, it's free to apply when you submit through the N2 portal.
Okay.
So no application fee.
So can you cover other question? There are a bunch of questions.
Oh yeah, let me open it. Okay. Uh, does the university accept academic gaps? If they're like a study gap, they would need to just kind of provide a detail of what the gap was, like what happened or what they were doing. Typically, that's more for undergrad students. For grad students, typically not. Secondly, do they have a preference for English proficiency? Yeah, so we do have codified English proficiency levels both for undergrad and our graduate programs. Those are all in our partner portal. So you can see by program what are the direct entry requirements for language. We accept TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo. And you can see the pathway programs. So the pathway programs are a blend of English and degree programs. So we can accept lower English levels for programs that do have pathway. Do we accept installment payments? Yes. So whether it's pathway or direct entry, our finance areas are able to review installment payments. Typically, what has to happen is the payments for a semester's charge have to be paid in full by the end of the semester for a student to be able to register for the next semester. So that means whatever your tuition charge for like the fall semester, you can pay it maybe monthly, but all those charges have to balance down to zero before they can register for the next. And that's pretty typical for most universities in the US. So we wouldn't ever say, oh, you can pay your fall charges over the course of 24 months. That would not happen. How much to deposit before visa application? Like I said earlier, we don't require currently the deposit for grad students, but I think that is switching. So I would just plan on 500 for undergrad and 350 for graduate students to be paid before a student could receive their I-20. Okay. Please cover areas such as acceptable GPA, refund policy, safety, security arrangement, and campus hostel available. Okay. So GPA in general, at the undergrad level, direct entry is a 3.0, pathway is a 2.5. At the graduate level, the direct entry GPA for most programs is a 3.0. There are a couple that are a little bit higher, but for the most that I spoke about today would be 3.0. For many of our graduate pathway programs, it's a 2.75, with the exception of the business school, which is a 2.5. So we do have some flexibility in that GPA. Refund policy, it would really be on a case-by-case basis, depending on kind of like when they're requesting the refund. There's like a schedule of refundability. And it depends on what program they're in. So that would be a little bit more of a case by case. Safety and security arrangement, being a Midwestern city, St. Louis is a kind of average, regular American city. On campus, very safe environment. So we have our own campus, public safety officers, buildings where students live are key swipe only, so only students who live in the building can actually get there. Every on-campus housing will have like a front desk 24 hours, so it's kind of like a hotel. There's always somebody there, and each floor will have a residential assistant, so it'll be an upper class student who is kind of like the key point person for all things on that floor. We do have on-campus accommodations. We have about 10 buildings for undergrad students, and we have 2 options for grad. Typically, our grad students will live off campus, but we do have some on-campus availability as well for grad. What is the purpose of the deposit fee, and is the deposit fee refundable or not? Good question. The purpose for the deposit fee for the university is for us to have a clear indication of a student's intent to come to our institution. And it's kind of a clear indication to help us plan for our incoming class. If we don't have that, then we don't really know who potentially is going to show up. We could have 5 students, we could have 500. With the deposit, it gives us a little bit more of a strong indication that X student is going to come. But it's becoming increasingly more important as an indication to the embassy of a student's seriousness of being a legitimate student. There are a lot of countries around the world where it becomes increasingly difficult to procure the international student visa because students before them didn't do what they were supposed to, whether they stayed back and never returned home, they stayed illegally in the country, things like that. So paying a deposit up front shows a little bit more legitimacy of their application. It does not guarantee the visa, but it does kind of enhance their viability for getting it.
General question. It's a great campus, lots of great programs like all the STEM programs. Yeah, so our advisors, it's highly recommended university, and itself, like the team, international support team is great in St. Louis University. I personally meet them myself. So if anything else, they are happy to help your students. That's the major part. Like when a student comes, this is their second country, like their second door they are coming inside. So they have so many struggle here in the state. So on that time, they need to have good support team. So that's the one St. Louis University for has. So I highly recommend this university. And then please let's start your applications for spring 2025 for graduate, undergraduate, and then they have some PhD program too. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining this morning. Although it's early morning back in India, Nepal, it's evening time. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a good evening back in the countries. And then Nigeria, I think good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Yuva.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye.